Well, good afternoon as we're sitting here at LTV on this beautiful afternoon of Monday, October 30th, year 2023, here at the Hello Hello Show. My name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty and, of course, the likes of you out there to make it your business to enhance and fortify that concept. Francis Ann, that went hand in hand with Fraser Dougherty for so many years to support and to make sure that this station of ours thrive unconditionally. And of course, this is paired with the effort that's taking place ongoingly, as they say, to make sure that that concept is thriving. And when you see what's happening around the world, you realize that actually this concept becomes more and more precious every day, and we are knowingly and unknowingly, directly and indirectly taking advantage of it and doing something about it. And the beauty is that sometimes unknowingly, just that kind of level of engagement because you desire and because you feel like you want to be a part of things and because you have this wonderful stage upon which you can express and externalize your thoughts and your reservations and just the whole idea of uh, being left to deal with yourself and being left to live the life that you want to live. And I don't want to sound cliche by saying live and let live, but of course live and let live. And I don't want to say like, peace because peace, of course, peace. So you have that as a package delivered to you and you kind of finding yourself very agreeably initiating and triggering that particular specific composition that gives you not only the ability but the level of interest, uh, enhancing the level of the desire to be a part of this in motion reality. I always think about battlefields of some sort. When I first started painting as a painter and found myself, I was an artist that plays music and write poetry for many years. I come from a family that treasured the idea and the concept of the need and the mustness to write poetry on the basis of this kind of importance that was interpreted constantly all the time. As you realize, if you were to grow the way I did, by the time I was 18, it was like, wait a second, I'm going out into the big world, convinced that poetry is an incredible tool to enhance your chances of survival on many levels, spiritual and physical and technical and philosophical and religious and you name it. So there is that moment of truth that I found myself suddenly alone in my studio, and I felt like, so immediately these questions of who am I, what's going on, came out to the surface instantly. I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't prepared into a situation where I need to give answers immediately, or where I need to give answers to things as they happen. And even though I can put things on hold and pause and all this, I realized quickly enough that doesn't work in this reality that's forming in front of my eyes. The new reality that's forming because things happen all the time and you're part of it. And that mixture is actually guaranteeing results. And these results is like copy paste on to deal with that collage that quickly enough will show you a different route, a different face, a different subject matter, a different direction, a different meaning, a different colorfulness, different uh, choices and the use of that kind of mountains of delicious debris that expects you to jump right into it and start, sorting through and see what it is that you need. I realize in that space, in order to get away from that possibility that it's overwhelming you, because not all of us just treasuring the idea of solitude. I I I I never wanted to use the word solitude. It was too beautiful to describe fear in the midst of silence. And I couldn't just reinterpret it because I didn't know better that I can do it because I can do it. And maybe I knew that I can do it, but I wasn't aware that it's actually going to work and save me from my misery. But I was better off to go through that level of and period of resentment to say, wait a second, nobody says that I have to jump into it right now. I can still engage, and I don't have to necessarily stand that often and that frequently in order to evaluate where I stand, what is the nature of my progress, what's the level of my progress, what's the speed of my progress. And as it turned out later on, that each one of these things that I just mentioned are crucial and important to pay attention to and to give it the credit that it needs. Being alone in the studio was like, okay, so I guess if I succumb to that and if I adjust to that, that is going to be how people save the world from calamity. That will be how people are part of the solution when it comes to pure dead end on all levels possible. And it doesn't matter how smart you are or otherwise. I mean, if 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 you are smart, probably you allow yourself to be the opposite, and if you're the opposite, you obviously will be able to allow yourself to be smart. And I'm saying it for a good reason because the that aspect of immediacy and in life, this is non-existing on daily life of people, where they would if their system is compatible with evaluating things that happen. Now, it doesn't mean it sounds probably hectic and obsessive, but it does sound like this and feel like this for those who are not accustomed to this. I felt the same way, and that's why I was deterred from negotiating with the obstacles in order to be a part of that kind of new reality. That's okay. And please close the door. Just like the reality that came out from from behind this door and reminded me that actually I live in the real world. But this negotiation is actually while your hands are making your dream come true and creating not only the quality but the quantity and building up swiftly, building up a full body of work. That full body of work cannot tell a lie because it's completely constituted and formed with absolute uh, um, uh, truth and truthfulness and decent day's work every day. There was a part of that creation, a decent full day's work with the code of conduct that work ethics is at its best. So yeah, finding myself in not only in something that I found myself questioning and behaving and hearing myself out loud or whatever in ways that I wasn't accustomed to, but it's just the kind of importance that was revealed to me in the actual process of engagement with these new things, and how this whole idea of adapting and adaptation is becomes ridiculous. You definitely can do without, put it aside. And the whole idea of kind of observation, which I think is important, but also making the mistake in finding yourself observing something that not so important to observe. And while you're doing that, obviously you neglect something that you know for sure and as a fact that is important not only to observe, but to observe all the time, non-stop, around the clock. So much so that your system will take the burden of wheeling and dealing with the technicalities of what it really means to find yourself engaged non-stop. People approach me and they talk to me about their appreciation of my rhythm and my energy and my and they also ask in the midst of that, so how can you juggle all of that? And my answer immediately will be first of all, lose the word juggle. How do I is exactly how you do and how you would be or you would do. And if we can keep a straight face through the process, we are not allowing. It's almost like when you hiccup and you want to hold your breath. There's a incredible logic and reason in the, even if I don't know much, it yields to me, and I can accept it as a fact that actually when you hold your breath, you make the hiccups go away, even if they never go away really. But the concept is so um, agreeing with all the ingredients and the parts that make it a whole. And even if it broke to all these pieces, it never lost its wholeness, because that's being imprinted in the initial contact with the surface once it was accomplished and completed. Sitting in the realm of that center that is by nature so inviting, oh my God, you cannot resist it. Suddenly making you realize that you didn't have the time. You were scared, you were concerned, you were frightened, you were confused. But you weren't aware that really all of these things happening. Maybe you were, but just briefly, and then suddenly life took off, and then you realize that actually, uh, indeed, you find out you were too busy to have that take place, too busy to allow that to be so dominant in a territory that doesn't belong to it. There's no justification. There's nothing to show for that. You say, okay, yeah, well, I'm going to let you in because obviously you showed, you proved. In most cases, that probably if you were to allow 20% of the crowd in, that would be like really an exaggeration. But it's always difficult to exclude people from the process. But then I learned the trick of not being involved, in being the one who will be responsible for what people are going to end up doing or not, what people are going to be a part of the process, or not. Shied away from it completely. And it worked for me incredibly. And sometimes I want to share this information with friends of mine and say, hey, listen, by the way, are you ready for it? And then I would kind of gently let that steam release and show its maybe more of a rough nature. That even this softness has a rough edge, and that roughness, that uncharacteristic value, is very appealing. Suddenly you realize, my God, this is very appealing. It feels pretty good, actually. Gives you an indication that there's a charm to aggression sometimes. This is, as long as it's just brief and serves the purpose and there only because it's needed for the seconds or the minutes that it's there, then it's doing its job, and off it goes into a wonderful, dreamlike cruising, gliding, in the sense of manipulating the the surprising waves that the energy is causing as it is on the go constantly. Cause and effect in that sense is the most magical thing. And when I think about this two words in Hebrew, it even, look how different it is in English. Cause and effect. These two words, they sound so different. In Hebrew, it will be siba umesuvav. Siba vesovev. Did you hear me out? Like, look, listen to this. Siba vesovev. The reason and that which surrounds the reason is called sovev. It has a name, it has an entity, it has a shape, it has a character, it has a vision, it has a plan, it has an idea, it has all the levels that suggest conviction and determination and goodwill and stubbornness and focus, all of this. Siba umesovav, siba vesovev, and then cause and effect. Cause and effect. I'm not, I'm just saying, okay. I take the difference between cause and effect, the two words I mean, and create something accordingly, in the sense of I want to create something that supposedly comes from potentially being as close as possible to one another, but in first and foremost, in the way it sounds, couldn't be more opposite, and in the way it makes you feel couldn't be more opposite. While in reality, this hug that creates that close circle between the two forces is so almighty that is just no chance at all available, not even a consideration that there could be a separation of the two. Now, I speak physically now. Of course, when this kind of grip is there long enough, it becomes a part of the meaning that it carries. So it has a part in delivering substance, and that substance will be psychological, philosophical, you name it, whatever title you want to give it, whatever label you want to add to it. So quickly enough, I realized, and since really I already taught myself that I am going or about to take that kind of knowledge, experience, whatever, reservations, combination of thoughts that came to the surface and the kind of wheeling and dealing I had with it, and where did it come from? Where is it now? Is it about to end up? All these, I realized it actually made me feel like creating second nature doesn't necessarily have to be torturous as people think, or as torturous as I was thinking. I thought it to be. And it was really because I didn't know how to navigate or negotiate or navigate the terrain. That terrain was abandoned, neglected. Why we were thinking that actually our initial engagement is all that the reality needs in order to accept us, to consider us, and to be a part of the change supposedly. And probably most of the time it is, but it's just a little too non-meat slash dairy thing, you eat cheese and you're actually thinking about how the filet mignon is coming into that equation and belong and feels right. That medium rare, and medium rare, that perfection. and and then you have this sharp cheese that is nasty, non-compromising, but it's velvety and creamy. And you take that bite, no matter what it is that you have in your mouth, no matter what it is that you already put in your mouth and ate before, nothing, no matter what kind of involvement that belongs to your palate took place or taking place, that bite of that cheese that is sharp, it gives you a nice uppercut. And as you realize that you were punched really right in the center and you're supposed to feel that instant ache, pain, the creaminess that settles sideways and just gently gliding, finding itself down to the surface, deprives you from experiencing the pain per se enough so you can feel that or ache. There will be pain, but you won't feel it the way that you usually would have or supposed to or would have. Now, I don't even know how I got into this subject, but this subject was all about public access and, of course, being involved with LTV and that concept. That, of course, we will find. I mean, when I think of myself being here for 30, 40 years or whatever it is, I'm impressed because I'm impressed because it tells me about me. And the idea that that kind of someone is grinding the ceiling, I think, here. That the idea that kind of availability of so many qualities, so many things that are just almost like too good to be true. This is what public access gives you. This is what granting you access that happens to be that access where you would find yourself living a dream that you never dreamt. But you know it's a dream, you know it's a privilege. You know that you're like, wow, seize the moment. Every time all over again. 10 years go by, 20 years go by, 40 years go by. See that importance and sense of honest, of seizing the moment, of the fact that there is a moment and that moment exists for you to seize or for you to realize that actually it's worthwhile seizing. I can try and describe it to you in many ways and over again. It would never feel as if you know, when it really feels on the surface, when you're actually taking part in it. And I know you out there. I know most of you. Probably I know all of you. And I know that you carry that quality that is compatible with that which is required from you and from your system, is to instantly and non-waveringly and non-compromisingly accept it into, let's be cliche, into your life, okay, into your heart, into whatever, into you. And that only God knows to what extent your creation is going to thrive and yield and eventually end up. And I can't even begin to think of how many people are going to benefit from it, take advantage of it, because rightfully so, it is done only so other people can take advantage of all this goodness, because you were the one that took advantage of exactly the same thing that were available, and because you were clever enough to notice and to identify and say, wait a second, like you're going to a yard sale, and you say, wait a second, look at this, and nobody can relate to what you're saying, and then you say, never mind, doesn't matter, but look at it, bring it here. And they bring you the treasure. They don't even know they carry or touch treasure. And you take that treasure, and you take that treasure to you to become yours. And you pay $2. and then your family can live for the next 100 years without working one day, because you found this little thing laying there so casually, so harmlessly. So the poem will find itself always in the midst of that, trying to configure, where am I? That's how I started. Where am I? What's going on? What was it exactly? Is it the I'm going? Is it I'm climbing? Is it the way up, the way down? Is it conquering sideways? You ask. You're not familiar, but you're not scared that suddenly you find yourself as if you just came out from a colonoscopy or something. Done? We're done? Feels like eternity. It's been only 20 minutes, whatever. So that's metaphorically speaking. I have to use a metaphor, a colonoscopy as a metaphor. But anyway, uh, trusting that when you find yourself suddenly, coming back, it's known that the one thing that we are not going to worry about is whether we can handle it, do something about it, take advantage of it, and turn it around to be a force in our lives. So this is almost guaranteed to be a given in the life that I'm describing, that happens to be yours, whether you know it or not. And when I say that, I speak of myself too, because your life is my life. My life is your life. And it's funny enough, I had a show once that I called My Life, Your Life. It was just because I managed to extract fractions of profiles that became visions that turned out to be some friendly, emotional daggers that are harmless and with full willingness to share and to join and to blend and to unite and to all these wonderful, though very trivial and cliche things. But as we operate with a straight face, this is our strength. Our strength is that we can go through that process And we're non-wavering, not because we focused and tried very hard not to waver, but it's because having the ability to freeze that straight face of ours makes any force that comes that has any potential to derail you or to slow you down or to you know drain your energies and all this will have no access, none whatsoever. It will have just the most extremely minimum access, just so it can be told that we actually gave it a chance or something. But when Mother Nature realizes that it is allowing its nature to thrive and to survive and to create that reality, that Mother, with this nature, is helping reality survive the becoming nature of it. And I know it sounds too crazy, but it's so easy to understand once you take this kind of fuzziness of complexity and depth and meaning and kind of simplify it. But there's no formula or recipe to simplify it. You just kind of hold your breath, keep that straight face, ham the breath out, hum the breath out. Don't breathe it out, hum it out. And you'll find yourself after the fact already the world is raving about you, how you surf that wave and they show you footage. This is you. And then you are incredibly interested and satisfied. And still you cannot get to the point to ask the question, is it really me? And for the longest time, this question is not being asked. And this is where we are lucky. I mean, if you are the one that, because those questions are the immediate questions, they're just going to put an end to that level of creativity. And you have to start all over again, which usually you won't be able to, because starting all over again means that you're really getting nowhere, because you will never be on time, because you never re-accomplish on time, because there are deadlines that suddenly you feel like a rookie, like you cannot handle it. You don't know the nature of it. You lost it. The cloud is gone. They have to invent a new cloud and start storing things that you're going to have to create touch by touch, face by face, item by item, and never have the time to think of what it is that you lost, because you always bring into the equation that photographic memory of yours and let it work for you on the surface. Lately, when I paint paintings, I dictate. I don't paint a painting, I dictate a painting. I dare say even I will it that way, even though again sounds a little too maybe over the top. I'd like to say I wouldn't care less, but I won't say I wouldn't care less. I won't say I don't care less. What I will say is you're going to have to get yourself an appointment with my straight face in order to get to the bottom of it. Nothing short of that will allow you to gain access to the beginning of the potential and the understanding that is there, so crucial for you to gain access, be qualified for a permission to be able to maybe gain access. Complex, multi-layered. I dictate the painting, but without doing this. I'm just doing it to be dramatic now. I dictate the painting and I say to it, but I don't say it already, but I go like, because once I used to say, come on, man, go there, overlap here. No, 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 don't forget the blue, come. The orange, I want the orange, that reddish, yellowish, purplish. No, 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 no. So it's this, like, wait, I want to say way to go, but I'm not saying way to go, but it's all about you anchor it and then it's just going sideways. You know exactly when to let it go, so it just spreads sideways. This is real when you speak of metaphors. You take something like, oh, the arrow, the old arrow of the town happens to be at the edge of town and nobody really pays attention to it until the third party comes and points out, well, that is lovely. Look at this. And we all answer, look at what? And that sign at the end of the road, so sweet, so effective, so full of promise, so promising, so comforting. And then again, you have exactly 112 optional avenues to continue from that image of having the sign at the edge of town that people don't know that it's there because they know so well that it's there. They just don't know it's there. And they figure if they don't know it's there and if they don't really actually see it, but they know it, so maybe they don't need to see it. Maybe they're where they're supposed to be, and they just need to continue being adamant as as if it's not there. But it's really not as if it's not there for them. It's really not there for them. But you have to come and introduce to them the as if, and then you realize if it's as if, that means I have a part in making it invisible, non-existing. And then when you untie these few ties, you realize you got to be very careful because you gain full access like this. Bam! The dam is open for a brief second, but it released so much water with so much power that in addition to the power that it carries, the motion of its abrupt eruption adds so much to that point, to that power. And now you find yourself running for your life. And all you wanted to do is just have introduction of new life. But you didn't know enough not to mess with that power. Didn't know enough that maybe when you do that, you have to be at the back of it, not in the front of it. Stumbled into your own warning mechanism of life-threatening scenario. And you have to deal with it and to visualize it while the ending materializing itself within the evaporation of your life. Something like this. It's not a nasty description. It's actually a very creative description saying, but the good news is that there's one last trick that can save you, even if you went back to Garden of Eden and then you have a span of one moment for the forces to be exposed to that, whatever it is that can make them change their mind, and you'll be back to us. And that will take place. That takes place, and they release you back. The intensity and the extent of what happened to you is irrelevant at that point, even though it played all the crucial roles in order to make it happen. But it's already gone. And then you realize this is the secret. I'm back and I'm realizing, what did I learn? When people come from the dead, they ask them, I saw a light at the end. Of course, they saw a light at the end of the tunnel because post life is nothing but light. So, what's the revelation exactly? Anyway, never mind. Put it aside. But here, you want to understand that your job is not to understand what is the nature of light, why is there a light, and why and how come that life is representing that which is not alive anymore inside the body. You come back and you say, man, oh man, for the first time in my life, I don't need a pen and a pen and a pan and or computer. I don't need to take notes. It was just like you realize that mountain of hints telling you constantly what not to do, what to do more, what to do faster, what to do slower, where not to go, how not to go, but things that in your previous reality, pre-death experience life, it was like you abided by it. You were governed. Your life was governed by these kind of scenarios. Now you realize, and you don't. Of course, you don't find yourself dwelling. Oh, I used to. Now I'm not. You're already within that reality. And if you are an artist, a true artist, because I'm sorry, I don't want to put anyone down out there. I'm sure that you're all true artists, whether you never painted a painting in your life or you paint every day of your life. But if you're a true artist, you will go back to that studio but not back to that studio as if you came back from death, back to the studio as just as much as you did every time when you left the studio and you found yourself going back to it. Same day, following day, 10 minutes later, a week later, but you're going back. In the most casual way going back, but full of breakthroughs that are going to materialize. And then when that takes place, you don't want to engage too much in involving yourself with the reality of the honest that is just like, oh my God, honest. And you let it filter through you. And it's okay to think suddenly that you're just a tool that's being used by the process itself. And it doesn't take away from the meaning of your crucial presence and talent and willingness and capability, endurance, also sensitivity, kindness, openness, yielding, also holding back, being envious and jealous of that which they want to protect so much, and that happens to be your well-being, because everything relies on your showing up. Very crucial. So yeah, you want to say that this is just a part of a a journey within a journey. Suddenly you find yourself really being sarcastic, and you realize that actually sarcasm is highly welcome, and and then you learn how to treat sarcasm and many other things that you used to be aware of before. But with the new tools that you have, man, oh man, the findings are incredible. Just like I'm finding out I have coffee here and some chocolate, and I'm just going to indulge and eat some chocolate, and maybe that's going to refine my thoughts. Now, this is delicious. With your permission, I'm going to eat some chocolate. Wow. That's why I say the eruption of pleasure. People are trying to call me. Oh my God. Don't tell me. I have to write them down. And wonderful. So, okay. That was so freaking delicious. Oh my God. You know what? I have a smaller piece. Sorry I cannot share with you. But let me just see here. Okay. So, yeah, I think so. Yeah. Here we go. So, it's nice to take a little break from all this. What was it like? I think it was like 40 minutes of. So now I'm going to take about a dozen minutes, to summarize that feeling. So I remember reading Rainer Maria Rilke. And I remember that introduction to his writing, and I was in my early 30s, and I was reading The Portable of Nietzsche then. I can't tell you I understood so much because it was too, the material was so intense, but yet they tried turn it into a scientific approach to forming a thesis. And that part of it, I wasn't able to relate to. I guess I needed to have tools that I wasn't qualified to have or to earn. And then I felt like, okay, so then I'm just gonna inhale and exhale and touch and feel and come and go, and whatever it is that I get from it is a blessing. But when I read, and in the midst of that, and Karl Marx and what's his name, Ludwig Strauss um, 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 and some excerpts, I was like a mishmash of things, but it wasn't mishmash, obviously. So Rainer Maria Rilke was someone who just, I felt like, oh my God, look at this guy. He is dwelling into his solitude. He comes to you completely falling to pieces and completely falling to pieces. Like he wants to dive and to accelerate and to gain that speed that will translate itself to power, but it also translate itself to self-annihilation, almost self-destruction. And I was stunned because I was at the stage where I couldn't relate to the fact that there are some people who were willing to share from their inner thoughts, inner being, things that are extremely personal. Your loneliness, your slash solitude, loneliness, fear, oneness, estrangement towards yourself, um, uh, is is beyond me. Is beyond. It's because I always gonna try to see it vis-a-vis the scenario where I find myself, let's say, externalizing these thoughts, fractions of my personality and what my personality is all about, vis-a-vis the sensations and the experiences that I'm going through. But then, at the same token, I felt like I'm like taken hostage by his clean approach towards the most secretive level of the definitions that make him who he is. And I could not admire that. So I wanted instantly, it's almost like, what's her name now? Um, I'll remember. I wanted to be like him because I felt I identified with solitude and I identified with what solitude means by how it feels, by how it feels, by how it, by what it means. Like it works both ways so evenly and so to the point. And so I started writing sentences like, um, I found myself close to the bottom and that I could not see that which is, for some reason, insisting in deterring me from utilizing the agility of my body deep into the meaning of the loose nature of the powers that happens to be selfless items in the the mechanism of carrying that chariot so glorifyingly, so royally, so um, determinedly, and dwell, oh dwell, dwell, oh dwell, dwelling, dwell, oh dwell, dwelling, dwell, oh dwell, O dwelling. And suddenly I just felt myself like I need to, like a serenade, or like a repetition of some kind of a solvable illness. Dwell, dwell, pray, 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 oh praying, pray, praying, praying, pray, pray, praying, praying, pray, dwell, 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 oh, dwell, oh, dwelling, dwelling, dwell, oh, dwell, dwelling, 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 dwell, dwelling, dwell. And then suddenly you realize that you're allowing yourself to let the fumes, whatever it is that else that you want to call it, that suddenly, and it reminds me of my experience with my children. And this, one of them used to say "mel," couldn't say "smell," he said "mel," and I just treasure that because I'm a writer, I'm a painter, I'm a musician. I want to take that mel, mel into the air, but then shy away from dwelling, not for the sake of creating the momentum, but dwell enough to erect that composition, only so you can let it go and continue to dwell, melling. All these games are taking place while the level of seriousness of executing a painting is intact. There's no cheap tricks that are going to lead you somewhere. Or maybe they are. I'm not aware of it, but what I more represent is the essential layers that are allowing access to that which you never thought that you will ever gain access, and that it's not common to have that at your disposal. But it happens, and it's a real thing, and reality shows its face sometimes with the level of impressive generosity. So I was blessed to be able to notice it and to identify it and to be able to do something about it and to use it in such a way that actually the returns are satisfying and acceptable, and it guarantees us the desire to continue to want to desire to be a part of it, to adapt it to our lives, to be a part of who we are, who we were, who we're about to be. Dwelling together, praying together, melting together, bringing it into that pyramid that is so, I don't know, I dare say almighty, but I don't even know what almighty is. The ruggedness, so impressive, so promising, so, I don't know, friendly. And quickly enough, you realize you're getting into this zone where incredible things happening adamantly and nonchalantly, and you're part of it, and you have a say. And more often than not, in most things, and in most things that are crucial for the success of, speaking of eye for color and eye for composition and self acknowledgement of self-worth. And doesn't hurt to read the biography of some greats that give you a hint about, like, oh yeah, I read about incredible artists of the last 100 years. They were like doing their thing, and it was mostly the trivial things that blew my mind that they were engaged in. The routine, the spending time religiously in their studios, and the acknowledgement of their ability and the proper evaluation of that which is needed in order to really make it happen. Obviously, I remember I said earlier I willed it. I willed it that way. And you know what? I can. My advantage is because I speak of me speaking of me, and then I can will it that way because I can actually turn it to be. There's enough tricks in the book to eventually steer it to favor you and to come and join forces with you and to help you materialize and conclude and finalize. Nothing beats this feeling and this sensation and the fact that you're a part of it as a part of being accepted to the club itself. And this is not just like, okay, I'm here, tomorrow I'm not, and I'm not a part of it. I am a part of it. I'm too much a part of it. I'm not part of it at all. No, you're part of it. While you're not, while everything, completely to the fullest extent that is possible. So I like to drive myself crazy and be obsessed sometimes. And out of that obsession comes the unlocking and unfolding of all the secrets that it harbors within. And the world does benefit from artists who make it their business to create and to be like a wet towels in the face of this world, in the world as a face, insisting, stubbornly insisting to make a difference, insisting to introduce art, fresh ideas, fresh results, and knowingly deep with full conviction that indeed it's bettering the reality that makes, that comes together to create this world as we know it. Then, of course, we want to start dwelling into that which we are not aware of and that which is too far away from us and too deep and too clever and too sophisticated for us to fathom. But when you hold your breath in order to get rid of the hiccups, this is something that even the angels cannot do, even if they wanted to do, because they just cannot. It's too brilliant. And usually it doesn't work, but it's still brilliant. Why? Because you know how to convince yourself that it's brilliant. And because you know that every time you want, you can actually actualize it. Keep a straight face through the process. If there's anything I can give you as a way of a suggestion or tip or whatever you want to call it, anything, any situation that you find yourself in, some of which can be dangerous and can be very potentially harmful, you can hold that breath to help you keep that straight face just a little longer, long enough, and it's never enough because it's got to be throughout. You can still find yourself actually relaxing in the face of being 24/7 with a straight face, tricking reality, because reality will not stop in its attempt to show who's boss, to show its superiority. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that you don't want it on your watch. You want to be left alone. You want to be able to be independent just the right amount, because you're not making too much sounds and you're not attracting too much attention and you're not attracting unnecessary attention. It can be devastating. So at least if we have this understanding, we know we both stand on the top of the mountain, conquering the summit, the tip of, and without thinking that indeed we did. That's the trick. Without thinking that indeed we did this journey, and obviously, if we're there, it means that we were not parachuted. We climbed it. We understand. Our body has a memory that reminds us that we actually climbed that all the way to the top. And since we resent the connotation of to the top and the mustness to get to the top, we shave the top. It's not a point. It's a flat surface that cutting the cone, the tip. And there it makes it more friendly and welcoming. It's flat surface. You can sit comfortably and you can contemplate, reflect, reminisce. Why? Because you have enough space to feel comfortable, to get in touch and reintroduce and refamiliarize with your body And therefore, of course, psychologically, philosophically, religiously, spiritually, everything come together like on a tray of goodness. And you get to pick, you get to choose, you get to have more of this, more of that, less of this, less of that. Wonderful. Yet sophisticated, efficient, strong, powerful, meaningful. Value is number one on the list of accommodating to the need of anything that is outside of yourself. And for some reason, you find yourself always saying yes, even if you're not sure that you have what it takes, or that you have enough to offer, or that you have what it is that you promised to give. But you're giving, you're giving, because you know that mechanism is all about replenishing. You proved it to yourself way too many times to start doubting now. So hey, listen, God bless. I don't know if I have any more to say other than I love you, appreciate you, respect you. We're going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday and as much as we here this afternoon of Monday afternoon, October 30th, year 2023, here with the Hello Hello show. And we're getting ready for a new show, a new art show. As you may already know, every month we have a group art show. We've been doing it for 26 years. I have the privilege to curate it. I'm actually starting as we speak, right after the show, to hang the first artist. Information will follow. We'll tell you all about it. Keep up the good spirits and reminisce and reflect a little bit on what I said, even though I find it to be almost a little bit impossible. So I apologize for that. But I love you.